I'm Dave Klein, and this is the Cymulate Cybersecurity Newscast. For those still behind the curve running their own Microsoft Exchange instances, there was a severe series of two vulnerabilities which are being exploited in the wild. When put into combination, these two exploits allow remote code execution and have been seen in the wild by a firm in Vietnam named GTSC, who appropriately notified Microsoft first and then told the world. They've seen these exploits chained to China Chopper web shells, which are used to gain persistence, data theft, and to move laterally in victim environments. In fact, they've even seen it, a tool called Antswood. It's a Chinese open source website admin tool, also loaded. It's very popular when you have initial attacks, maybe initial attack access brokers. These things come in, they establish persistence, data theft, they move laterally. They usually put in some kind of website admin tool in there as well. They usually load things like Cobalt Strike to do further pen testing and things like that. So what is the impact of these two new vulnerabilities? Well, doing a quick showdown scan, I found that there's over 250,000 vulnerable machines out there still running this version of Microsoft Exchange on premises. Really, folks, we're at a point where there's very few reasons to run Microsoft Exchange on premises anymore. I know for some larger organizations it may be difficult to migrate, but you really should start migrating now. Does it mean that you are free of having problems in the future? No, you still have problems, but you have much less problems that run on premises. Italian automaker Ferrari was hit with ransomware today. In fact, just a few hours ago, just enough time to make it into the newscast. It was a group called Ransom EXX, tied to a larger criminal organization called Gold DuPont, which actually goes back to 2019. They've been around for quite a while. In fact, it's the same group that hit just a few weeks ago the Ski-Doo and Sea-Doo manufacturing group. About 7 gigabytes of data were stolen, and where I was not able to go to the Tor site and actually see the information myself, other news people have said it's about 7 gigabits of data, downloadable, internal documents, data sheets, and repair manuals. While Ferrari has acknowledged that some data was stolen, they say they weren't hit by ransomware, which is curious. We'll see how that rolls out over time. This would be the second time Ferrari's been hit in just a few months. Back in May, one of their third-party vendors, Speroni, was hit, and a lot of their information was leaked along with Fiat, Lamborghini, and a few other companies, about 900 gigabits at that time. So we'll keep abreast of this situation as things materialize and let you know what happens. With over 1,000 victims and payouts exceeding $150 million, the U.S. Department of State considers the Conti ransomware gang to be the worst and the most successful ransomware gang that we've seen to date. And as you know, they kind of disappeared a few months back. When the start of the Russian invasion of the Ukraine occurred, they made some statements that were pro-Russian, and their Ukrainian developers put out some statements and also their message boards to the world, and we learned a lot about this gang, and they supposedly dissolved. So there are two reports recently that say these people are alive and well, and that's really what's going on here. So the key is the Conti ransomware gang was really a campaign of a larger group called Wizard Spider, who also runs things like Rook, TrickBot, Quantum, and Black Hat. So these two pieces of research, one was by ADVE Intel, the other one was a DFIR report, both point to the fact of all the signs that this group is still around, just doing other campaigns now. So for example, Advent Intel came out with some statements saying that Emotet, which was originally an initial access broker, these are things that land on the machines, maintain persistence, start to gather intel about where they are and move laterally, drop things like Cobalt Strike and things like that, that Emotet, which was originally only a Conti initial access broker, is now being used by Quantum and Black Hat and even another group called Hive. So basically this tool is now being used by 3 different other campaigns. So maybe the people from Conti have moved on to these other 3 campaigns. On top of that, the DFIR report that came out, and by the way, this is one of 2 that will come out. This is the first one they've introduced. There'll be a second one in the following weeks that shows an anatomy of a new attack that really looks a lot like Conti, so that the operators are probably Conti ransomware gang people. I'll put a link to the Advent Intel, that's a real tongue twister, and the DFIR report in the notes section of this video. And then when that new DFIR report comes out, we'll cover it in the newscast as well. Social media keeps us together. in some ways. In some ways, it pulls us apart. This week, Meta announced removing 2 propaganda fake profile-based networks that were going on in their environment. First, the first one was a Russian one with over 2,000 Facebook accounts that tied into pro-Kremlin propaganda and narratives in France, Germany, Italy, Ukraine, and UK by commandeering fake 60 websites that looked like, that impersonated legitimate news organizations like The Guardian, Der Spiegel, Bild, and ANSA, again, all trying to manipulate the narrative around their invasion of the Ukraine. There was a second one they took down that was smaller, that was put up by the Chinese, which were looking for anti-government support in the Czech Republic, trying to garner animosity towards the Czech government because basically that government is not pro-Chinese as far as economic interests, and that is interesting. So these are 2 things that happened this week. My takeaways here is, as always, social media is such a problem today, and there really is a need to do better jobs at it, whether we're talking about Twitter, whether we're talking about Facebook, or what have you. There's just too many ways that people can get around and create fake profiles and fake narratives. Just caveat emptor to everyone out there, be smart. And that's the newscast for the week. I'm Dave Klein. This has been the Cymulate Cybersecurity Newscast. Have a great week.